And hi, and welcome to Proline, direct from Las Vegas. I'm Dave Kochen, joined by Jim Feist. We're going to take a look ahead to Week 6. It's already Week 6 of the college football campaign. Plus, we'll get into the NFL Week 5 action. But first, Jim, if people subscribe to the channel, well, that's free, and they get bonus stuff for free as well.
Bonus stuff. We're going to give you a little bonus today, too. We're going to talk a little baseball. But right now, I'm telling you, go to ProlineTV.com. That's ProlineTV.com. Hit the subscribe button, and you're going to get notifications on new videos. Plus, you'll be sent a code to get 7 days of my service absolutely free. That's ProlineTV.com.
All right, 2-1 with my high roller plays so far in the NFL. These are the value play selections. Lost last weekend, fourth quarter, come from a head loss. But the other prior to the Cardinals 40-7, Eagles 34-3. So they've been good. We've got football and baseball playoffs, and here's an October special. The rest of this month, just $25. That's going to include one of those high roller value plus releases. I've got plays every day. Well, almost every day. There are some days where I'm not going to force something. For instance, I didn't play the baseball game on Tuesday night, which we will talk about in a little bit. But if you want to get this deal, $25, it's a really good deal. 855-472-2577. Now, Jim, you're 9-1 on your NFL high rollers now. I mean, that's been sensational. Steelers, about as easy as it gets, a piece of cake against Kansas City, the Chiefs. Giants and Vikings under on Monday night. No problem there. 1-0 on NFL Game of the Years with the, what was it, AFC South total of the year.
Right.
Last weekend, Falcons and Panthers over. Nice 32-point cover. But this is the big one. This is the college football Game of the Year, which earlier than normal for you, so it's obviously something that really jumped out at you, and it goes this Saturday.
It did, Dave. You know, we like to win every game, of course, because each game we're betting money, and we like to collect. We don't like to have to pay. And last year, since 1999, I'm 12-4-1 in my college football Game of the Year, including last year Arkansas State 59-21 rout over Monroe. It's $99 online at jimfeist.com, or you can get it for $49 along with plays before Saturday to help you build your bankroll. I'm 3-1 this season, 75% with my football Game of the Year releases. College football Game of the Year goes Saturday, half price. Just call 866-546-9467.
All right, so let's talk some college football, and we'll begin with Tennessee and Texas A&M. And, Tennessee's got the mojo working right now. It's magic what's going on. They win a game last week that they should just simply not have won, and if it's not for a taunting penalty, the excessive celebration penalty on the part of Georgia, they don't win the game. I hate that rule. I hate it with an absolute passion, because I think it takes a lot of the spontaneity out of the game, and it's not taunting. There's a difference between celebrating and taunting. But bad rule or not, it's a rule that exists. And I put this on the coach. This is something you've got to coach your team on every week with reinforcement, is that you cannot have celebrations on the field of play. They're going to throw a flag. It'll end up hurting the team. If at that point the players don't listen, there's not much you can do. But I don't think they coached this up enough, to be honest with you. Georgia had the big celebration after they had apparently won the game with 10 seconds to go. Tennessee instead gets the 15 yards extra. They get the ball out the midfield, and then they hit the Hail Mary. So Tennessee is getting lucky. Comeback against Appalachian State, down 14-0 against Virginia Tech. They come roaring back and win that game. They've had a lot of luck, but I don't want to go against this team right now because they've got this phenomenal roll going as far as good breaks or whatever, and plus the line looks high to me in this game.
The line is high, but I'd rather be lucky than good. So
really.
If they can get through a whole season like this, actually I think Tennessee is pretty good. But they have been lucky. They've been sloppy as well. Appalachian State, they win the game in overtime. They're not playing well, consistently well, I should say. Texas A&M, 5-0 straight up, 4-1 against the spread, 11-4-1 under.
And you know what else they've got?
Maybe that's the way to look at this game.
They've got killer instinct, which is why, even though I think the line's too high, I'm not going to take Tennessee either. A&M's been showing me something in terms of, okay, if we get you down, we're going to step on you. I thought they really showed that in the Arkansas game. Arkansas made a couple mistakes. I had Arkansas in that game. I lost that game. And once A&M got him, and that's what you got to do. That's how teams win championships. So I don't really want to go against that.
There's no sense sitting on a lead waiting for the other team to get hot or get lucky and come back and get you. If you're a coach, if you have a coach on your team that likes to rub it in and likes to really grind you down, that's the way to go because you're not going to get caught from behind too often.
Yeah, this is a terrific football game, and there's a lot on the line because both teams have very high hopes. They're hoping to get to the playoffs. It's not going to be easy coming out of the SEC, which is a very rugged league as always. And again, I don't really want to go against Tennessee while they're on this magical roll.
Right.
But I do think A&M's the better squad, and to me the right number is about 5, and it's higher than that, but there's not enough value here for me to take it.
Football, after all betting is a numbers game if you're dealing with point spreads, and if you're dealing with money lines, you're looking for value anyway. The line is a little too high. In my opinion, Tennessee should not be getting 7 or 7.5 points. So based on that alone, I would have to be on Tennessee because if you made the game, here's an example. If you made the game 3, I'm on A&M. If you made the game 10, I'm on Tennessee. There is a number in there that's going to make you go one way or the other. Right now, I'm thinking 7.5 is too much.
I would, gun to head, I'm taking Tennessee plus the points. All right, the other game we want to talk about right now is Alabama-Arkansas. And Alabama's obviously a big favorite, as they generally always are, and with good reason. It's a phenomenal program. Nick Saban is as good a coach as we'll find, I think, ever in college football. He's in that at that level. The guy's incredible. Brett Bielema, not so much. He's done a nice job at a couple of his previous stops, and I think he's doing okay at Arkansas. But I'm just not seeing. I'm not seeing this program being elite. And I'll go back to the game we just talked about, which was the Texas A&M game, where they just simply weren't. Once they got in trouble in that game, that was it. They just didn't have the weapons to come back. It makes it really difficult to take the dog, even in a game like this, where you know the public's going to be on Alabama. They always are. And you know you're probably looking at a line that's priced a little too high because of the fact that the books know where the money's going to be on this game, at least in terms of the ticket count. And yet I've got a tough time making a case for Arkansas because you've got one coach who, he doesn't let up, okay? He does not let up. And the other team did not show me the ability to handle adversity very well in the A&M game. So this is one of those weird games for me, Jim. I think that the initial line value is probably slightly on Arkansas, but I would play Alabama minus the points first because if this gets to the fourth quarter the way I think it would, I think Alabama will keep scoring, and I think Arkansas might not be able to.
I can't disagree with you, Dave. Alabama's tough to bet against.
Oh.
I mean, when this guy, like you said, when he gets it, he grinds it down and he goes after you. What I like about this game, it's a big game. It's a really big game for Arkansas. Emotionally, this is a watershed game. Their defense. I think Arkansas can keep this game within reach of the. Now, I'm not going to talk about the point spread part. I'm going to talk about the total. I do like a lot of totals in football. It opened 50, and it's 49 with the under favored. I like the under in this spot. I think we're looking for a defensive effort by Arkansas that can keep Alabama down enough to keep it under 49. 49 is a lot of points.
Yeah, it is.
Especially when you don't have an offensive juggernaut with Arkansas.
That makes some sense to me. I like that. Yeah. All right. Hey, if you want to ask us any Vegas sports wagering questions, it's not very difficult. All you have to do is go to ProlineTV.com. And whatever you want to ask, go ahead. It doesn't cost anything. And speaking of not costing anything, be sure to hit the subscribe button when you're there to get 7 days of action free.
Plus, you can go to JimFeist.com for free stats, articles, videos, my free fast facts, which are up and ready right now, and plays from the nation's top handicappers.
All right, so let's look at some NFL Week 5 action. And the question is, can those amazing, powerhouse New York Jets handle the Pittsburgh Steelers offense?
Fitzpatrick has thrown 9 interceptions in 2 games.
Ryan Pickpatrick.
Oh, good name. I like that.
No, I'm not the first one to
He didn't get involved with a lot of the off-season stuff with the team. They didn't sign him. bonehead move. You want your quarterback to be ready, get him into camp, make your deal, pay the guy. You pay everybody else.
Especially since you knew he was going to be there anyway.
Yeah.
What, I mean, did anybody think they were going to go Geno Smith as the starter?
I have never cared for the ownership of the Jets. I just don't feel like they know what they're doing as far as being a winner and building a franchise to. I mean, look at who they have to beat every year. They got to beat New England. So if you're going to build a team to beat New England, you better have the pieces in place. Now, they're not going to beat New England this year. They're a mess. But Fitzpatrick is better than he showed the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But now he's going to the Steelers, who 2 weeks ago crushed by Philadelphia, the Eagles, who are the new up-and-coming powerhouse in the NFC. I don't see the Jets handling this team this week.
Well, the Steelers looked great last week.
The Steelers have a lot of power. Yeah. They're offensive. They are an offensive juggernaut. And when you look at, we talked about totals before. Well, let's look at the total in this game. 48. Injuries for the Jets. They had Decker out last week. That's a big loss. Fitzpatrick's not going to play this bad all the time, or are they going to bench him and put Geno Smith in? Geno Smith, in my opinion, is not an NFL quarterback.
No, and you know,
but he's still on a roster.
Well, yeah, because they don't have it. I mean, Petty's the third guy. They just don't have much there.
I know.
And they drafted Hackenberg. What?
That was a bad one, too.
I don't understand the direction of the franchise. I do understand what the Pittsburgh Steelers
I don't understand the people who make these decisions.
No, look, bad franchises make bad decisions year after year after year, and I think the Jets fall into that category.
They do. You know, at the beginning of the year, none of us thought the Jets were one of the bottom 5 teams in the NFL. But right now, I'm not so sure they're not.
Well, they're not impressing anybody right now, that's for sure.
Exactly.
Now, the Steelers on the flip side, you know, they got through the 3 games without Le'Veon Bell. Now he's back, and immediately 144 yards, 8 yards per carry against the Chiefs last week. Big Ben looks sensational. This guy's getting better, which is hard to believe because he's already got a Hall of Fame resume.
He's got 2 Super Bowl rings too, and
great player.
Yeah, great player. This is. I really don't see this. I know when you look at preseason ratings and everything, the Jets +7 might look juicy here. I don't see it. The only side I could be on in this game is Pittsburgh.
I think the Steelers have a ton of momentum. I think the Philadelphia game was an aberration, which I'm glad of because I had the Eagles in that game, and I was very happy with that result, obviously. But Pittsburgh, I think they're the main threat to New England in the AFC. I don't think that's exactly a revelation on my part. I believe that most of you people watching right now probably have the same opinion, that those are the 2 best teams in the conference and that they've got a good chance to be facing off against each other at the end of the season. Denver fans, don't get upset. If there's a third team, it's definitely the Denver Broncos.
I was going to jump in on that one because of the way they play is amazing.
And their defense is phenomenal. But, I mean, this is no surprise what we're seeing out of the Steelers. And we talked about this earlier when we were talking about killer instinct. Well, the Steelers have it. They're a team that when they get you down, they know how to put you away. And they did it on Sunday against a pretty good Kansas City's not a bad football team.
They're not a good football team, Dave.
Well, they're
really not.
They've got some areas that need work, but they're not a disaster.
How many offensive touchdowns have they had the whole year? I mean, they've done it on turnovers. Granted, so does Minnesota, but they're a much more solid team. Kansas City's not playing well. I thought they were going to represent that division and maybe even take over for Denver, but Denver's playing way too good.
Oh, yeah.
Simeon, I'm sorry, but Elway knew what he was doing with this kid. This guy's actually pretty damn good.
Elway knows what he's doing, period.
Yeah.
He's really good at this job. He's got 2 different quarterbacks there. They're going to have a quarterback controversy at some point because Simeon's shown that he can play. And Paxton Lynch, he's going to be good. Okay, I think Paxton Lynch is going to be a nice quarterback. So you've got a fun setup in Denver right now.
It's fun. They said he wasn't ready. They said he wasn't ready because he didn't come out of the pro-style offense.
Right, so they put the shotgun in last week when he had to come in the game.
He looked great the few minutes that he was out there.
Yep, he looked fine. Meanwhile, as far as the Steelers are concerned, I think we're both, I don't know that I'll use it as a play or not, but I'm looking at the Steelers potentially as a play against the Chiefs. We'll have to wait and see. Jim viewers can get free plays. Oh, wait a minute, I'm not done yet. Got another game to talk about.
Okay.
I got ahead of myself there. We need to talk about the Bengals and the Cowboys.
Better than being behind yourself.
Yes. I don't know how I would do that physically. Bengals and Cowboys, I think I made this comment here last week, or in the last 2 weeks, and I know I made it on the radio. I thought coming into this season that the Bengals window hadn't maybe closed, but it was maybe an inch from closing. You know, it's kind of slipped down. I thought blowing it in the playoffs last year the way they did again was the last hurrah for this team as a serious title contender. Still a decent football team, but I don't put them in that elite caliber anymore. And I don't think in the past couple of years they had the capabilities. It didn't happen, but they had the capabilities of going a long way in the playoffs and maybe even getting the Super Bowl. I don't think that's there anymore. I thought Marvin Lewis had to get fired after last season. Not that he's a bad football coach, but that's run its course. And I think what I'm seeing so far this season indicates I might have been right.
You were right. Cincinnati, their window, much like if you go back like a bunch of years, 10 years or so, with San Diego Chargers.
Yeah.
They were the best team in the AFC, but they could never get over the hump. Bad management, bad coaching decisions.
We're actually going back to the Fouts days.
Well, that even goes
even
further.
then,
that even goes further.
They've had Fouts was the best quarterback in the league.
There. When you have bad ownership or bad on-field decisions made by the executives, you're going to kill your team. The Jets do it every year. San Diego's done it for years. I mean, there's a guy, that's a team that fired Marty Schottenheimer and was 14-2, for God's sake. So when you see this happening, and it's happened with Cincinnati, they lost a couple really good players, offensive players in the offseason. This is not the team. I want to know why they are favored at Dallas.
Well, I think part of it is people still looking at Dallas and seeing these horrific home numbers. 11, 25, and 2 against the spread at home. Obviously, they were a very bad home team last year. But look what's happening. I mean, they have a 1-point loss to the Giants because Williams didn't get out of bounds. Had he gotten out of bounds, Bailey kicks a field goal, and they win that game. They beat the Redskins. It wasn't a blowout. It was a tough football game, but they won. They beat the Bears pretty easily, 31-17. The Bears are awful. I understand that. Beat the 49ers. Wasn't a blowout. But the fact is, they're winning games. Dak Prescott is not making mistakes. The team's gaining in confidence every week. Their window's starting to open. See, this is now. It might still be that, and this is a tough call. Cincinnati might still be better than Dallas right now, but I do think you've got two elevators going in that opposite directions here. The Cowboys are definitely on ascending. The Bengals are descending. I know those numbers are ugly, but and I'm not committing myself to this yet. But I'm looking at Dallas.
Well, let me ask you a question. You're going to be you're in charge of drafting. You have a football team you're going to draft.
All right.
You're going to have Dalton on one side.
Okay.
From what you know about him, you've seen him. They're both the same age, so let's take that out of the mix. And Prescott. And you've seen what they can do, unlimited for Prescott, more with Dalton. Who has bigger upside? Who do you want on your team?
Prescott's got more upside.
This kid's doing well.
I don't even know what's going to happen when Romo is able to play, because right now I would not take Dak Prescott off the field. There's a chemistry out there that it's just not, you can't deny it.
Well, even if you did, and I wouldn't either, I would keep the guy that's winning for me keeps his job. That's it happened for Brady years ago when Belichick kept him on the field. It worked
Drew
out
Bledsoe,
pretty,
yeah.
Yes. Well, Jerry Jones
happened for the Cardinals, by the way, with Kurt Warner.
Exactly.
He wasn't the starting quarterback.
No, he wasn't. Green
was the starter. He got hurt late in preseason. Warner had to play. And this is when we were still doing Proline on national TV. And I still remember we're sitting in back of the studio outside smoking. Not you, because you didn't smoke, but Jack Snow and myself are participating in that activity. And Jack's saying, we don't know anything about Warner. Who's this guy? He's bagging groceries. And Jack says, this guy can throw the football. He's going to surprise some
Jack
people.
was the color guy for the Rams.
That's right. He was the Rams broadcaster. And he says, this guy can throw the football. He says, they're going to be pretty good. Don't be surprised with this team. And they went out and won the Super Bowl.
A year or two earlier, he was bagging groceries and then went to the Renal Football League.
But that's the thing is when you get, And that brings us back to Prescott and the conversation that's going to have to take place at some point as to what to do when Tony Romo comes back. Now, look, if Prescott falls down on his face the next week, it's a different story. But if he keeps playing at the level he's playing at right now, I think you got to leave him out there.
I don't change it. I keep it there. Definitely. So back to the game. What has Cincinnati done? We're not talking about last year. We're not talking about trends from 10 years ago. No. We're talking about this year. What has he done, Cincinnati? What has Dalton done this year that would make them the favorite at Dallas this week? I don't get it. Forget the past. This is different. Different players, lots of things different. You know, Cincinnati not only lost a couple of wide receivers, they also lost Hugh Jackson, who was their offensive coordinator. Big deal. When you lose coordinators, it makes a huge difference. I don't know what they've done to be favored here.
All right. Jim, viewers can get free plays from us right to their cell phone. It is remarkably easy.
Oh, it's so easy. Just text GAME, G-A-M-E, to 25827. You'll get a free play right now to your cell phone. That's GAME, G-A-M-E, to 25827.
All right, we're going to continue with the NFL. Sunday NFC Showdown coming up between a pair of aces, as far as quarterbacks are concerned, as the Giants and Packers clash at Lambeau. Plus, we're going to talk a little Major League Baseball and the decision that everybody's talking about that took place in Toronto. All right, great news, exciting news coming out of Canada that I was not aware of, but Jim Feist has all the information for you.
The city of Toronto has declared that October 5th is Buck Showalter Day.
What?
How in the world could he do what he did?
There is no defense of this. None. Somebody has been trying to argue this on Twitter with me, and it's like, you're wrong, okay? And he was wrong. I thought he should have been in the game in the 8th and 9th inning, because at that time I want to make sure that I get to extra innings, and I've got to at least extra innings. I've got to give my team a chance to win the game. But you know, Brock's had a great year. O'Day's a good pitcher, so okay, not a real problem with rolling the dice there, and he got through it. Okay, the Orioles didn't score obviously, but here they go to the 11th inning, and I'm watching things unfold, and I'm seeing that he's got Brian Dunsing and Ubaldo Jimenez in the bullpen, and I'm going, I actually started tweeting this. Well, that something must be wrong with Britton. He must have hurt himself warming up. I'm not making this up. I assumed that he must have injured himself warming up and wasn't able to go, because there's no other rational explanation for bringing in a guy in a win-or-go-home. This is Game 7 of the World Series, okay? Because this is it. There's no next game if you lose. Brian Dunsing pitched 13 innings in the majors this year, none of which were high leverage. Ubaldo Jimenez is a starting pitcher who's not used to coming in and out of the pen. And by the way, his first inning numbers are by far his worst numbers. He's not good in the first inning of games. You're going to bring that either one or both. He got away with Dunsing, who faced one guy, and that was it for him. And Ubaldo comes in and gets crushed. This ranks among the dumbest managerial decisions in the history of baseball.
For the people
it's
that
the
don't
same
know-
thing as what Freddie Gonzalez did a couple of years ago with the Braves in the playoffs, where he leaves Craig Kimbrell sitting in the bullpen and has David Carpenter pitch, which is stupid. Buck Showalter's a terrific manager, but this was stupid.
Dave, for the people, and a lot of the people that are watching the show are more football fans than baseball fans, because that's kind of what we do, more football and baseball on the show this time of year, and et cetera. Tell them who Britton is and what he's accomplished.
Zach Britton's given up one run since May at a 0.47 ERA. He's had such a good year that he's actually in the discussion. Now, he would not get my vote because I wouldn't give it to a relief pitcher, but he's in the discussion to win the AL Cy Young Award.
I know.
And you never used him in an elimination game? There is no defense for this. No. It ranks right up there with all-time boneheaded managing decisions.
I couldn't believe it. I heard all the discussions today. I watched it last night. I had money on Baltimore. It took 157.
I didn't have anything in the game, so it didn't matter to me.
Well, I had the under too, but I had 157, which is an outprice. I mean, that's a terrible price to give an underdog, a live underdog with a better bullpen, and Britton, who's the best reliever out there, and Buck Showalter his passport needs to be canceled. He needs to be left in Canada, but they don't want him there. Well, no, they might.
Here's
keep
the thing. We're going to get to the Packers-Giants game in a second, but this is the type of loss that can leave such a bad taste in the players' mouths they don't respond to this manager in the future.
They need to fire him.
I got to tell you, it gets. I'll give you another example of it, and I'll go back to my team, the Red Sox. We can talk about this now because it doesn't sting as much because the Red Sox have won 3 World Series and might win a 4th. But the Grady Little decision with Pedro Martinez.
Yep.
Now, Grady Little was a good manager and had done a good job with that team, but he really screwed up in that game several years ago. And he was gone by the middle of next season because he lost the team with that one move. I think that could happen here.
The Baltimore players have to be saying, what the hell were you doing?
Zach Britton was very diplomatic post-game.
I didn't hear that.
But he handled a great amount of class. But he was clearly extremely frustrated.
Right.
And said, I wanted to get in and help my team. They didn't put me in the game. Wow. Well, the Giants and Packers are meeting this weekend, and I'm not sure the Giants are that anxious to travel back to the NFC North after what they faced at Minnesota this past week. Wow.
Well, we have to bring in here a little bit about Odell Beckham Jr.
The 15-year-old wide receiver of the Giants.
Yeah, who needs a
at
pacifier?
least mentally.
The Giants considered Beckham as an asset. I say the Giants, he's their giant ass, not an asset. This guy's disrupted the team. He's out of control. And again, it comes back to management and ownership. You need to sit this guy, and I don't know if you can get away with it. You need to penalize him financially. Don't play him. He's out of control. He's bad for the league. He's bad for the team.
I like that. I like the embarrassment factor. I think this is a send a message type of thing. You're a healthy scratch this weekend.
Yeah. I had the Giants plus points against Minnesota the other night, and I also had the under, which was a bigger play. So I was happy with the win and not too happy with the loss. But, and that wasn't a slight against Minnesota because I know how strong the Vikings are, which will spill over a little bit to this. But their defense is incredible, but their offense is kind of pedestrian. They don't put up a lot of points, and they're not going to put up a lot of points when you're only averaging 51 yards rushing the football. And their weapons on the outside are average. So they're doing it with defense and turnovers, and I knew that going in. And I felt that the Giants could keep it close because they're not playing an offensive juggernaut, and taking 5.5 points was actually a pretty good bet. Under was a given because 43-44 was way too high for these teams. But the Giants continued to do what they probably are going to do here, turn the ball over, and there's dissension. We don't know how good Ben McAdoo is as a head coach. The argument could be he might have been the worst coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator on the field the other day against the Vikings. He may not be a head coach. He may simply be an offensive coordinator, which he was last year. That happens a lot.
It's a difficult spot for the Giants. Yes. Second straight road game, short week.
Against a good team.
Yeah, and the Packers know they better keep winning if they want to have a chance to win that division.
That's right.
And avoid the wild cards. The Vikings
are not going away. And they've already lost to the Vikings.
Yes. I had the Vikings on Monday, and I was real happy with what I saw because they're doing exactly what I think they need to do, which is manage the game offensively. Don't put Bradford in situations where he has to win the game for you. Ride the coattails of an absolutely great defense. I mean, it really is a great defense. Minnesota.
They remind me of the Ravens from years ago.
I'll tell you who they remind me of. They remind me of the Denver Broncos from last year. Denver was a substandard offensive team last year. They were average at best offensively last year. They won the Super Bowl. This Vikings team can win the Super Bowl with this defense.
Yes, they can.
The Packers, I don't think can win the Super Bowl, but I think they can win this football game. It's in a price range where I'm probably not going to play it. But I don't want the Giants in this game.
Well, here's an example. Let's talk about this a little bit.
All right.
The Giants really blew that game the other night with the muffed punt.
That was a huge play.
Because if they would have got that ball just right where he attempted to catch it, they had great field position to go down and get a field goal or a touchdown. Now, that isn't easy against the Vikings, but it is possible, except then they turned it over there, and of course that set up the play. But they were only a 4.5 to 5 point or 5.5 point underdog in that game. They're a 7.5 point underdog in this game. That's a big difference, especially.
Oh, values clearly.
Yeah,
because I think Minnesota. I have
Minnesota's
Minnesota
a better
higher
team
than Green Bay. So
yes, not offensively.
No, but overall.
But overall,
Yeah.
they're a better team. So here you're talking about, what are they putting in there? An extra 3 points for blowout potential? Or Odell
I think
Beckham playing?
Packers might be something I'd look at in a tease,
Yes. Well, that might be a good idea.
but I don't think that. Well, I'm not going to lay the points though. I can
No,
pretty
that's
much
too
guarantee
high.
that.
Too high.
All right. Hey, look, if you want to get free plays every day in a recorded message, again, all you have to do is make a call to a toll-free number, 888. Is it toll-free still, or with the roaming thing now, it doesn't matter? I don't even know.
I don't know.
But in any case, at the very least, it's a free phone call. 888-478-9222 is the phone number. And you can follow us on Twitter as well. Jim, tell them how they can follow you.
You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Jim Feist Sports. And feel free to send me a direct message with any question you may have.
All right, and you can follow me at Dave Koken, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff, and be glad to talk to you. All right, that's it. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week with another edition of Proline.